Hello everyone, Mykhailo Bentsa is here. Today we are talking about single most important decision you will make in your entire ISO 27001 journey, and most companies get it wrong. I'm actually talking about the scoping, defining exactly what your SMS covers. If you get it right, and everything else become manageable. But if you get it wrong, you will either drown in unnecessary work or fail the audit entirely. If you stay until the end, I have the quick bonus, a life hack, something the most teams only discover during the audit, when it's a little too late to fix comfortably. I've seen both extremes in real audits. Teams that scoped broadly, they spent a year preparing the thing that never need to be included. And the teams that cut so many corners on the scope that the auditor flagged it immediately on the stage 1 day 1. So in this video, I'll walk you through exactly how to scope your SMS correctly. In 5 practical steps, straight from what actually works in real implementations and audits. So step number 1, understand what scoping actually means and why auditors care so much about it. Your SMS scope is a formal statement that defines which part of your organization, services, locations, and information assets your security management system applies to. It tells the auditor, this is the world where we are responsible for securing. The reason auditors scrutinize it so carefully is simple. The scope defines the audit. If your scope is unclear or unrealistic, the whole certifications become really questionable. And a well-defined scope shows that you actually understand your own business, and that's the great first impression. What actually is in the play? Before you can draw a boundary, you need to know what's inside of it. Start by listing your core services. What does your company actually do? What systems support those services? What data do you handle? And where does it live? For a SaaS company, this might be your cloud infrastructure or your application, or maybe even your customer data, or your development environment and the teams that manages all of it. For an IT services company, it could be an internal systems plus the managed services you deliver to the clients. The goal here is not to list everything you own. It's to understand what's relevant to services you want to certify. That distinction matters enormously. Step number 3. Define your boundaries, what's in and what you can legitimately leave out. This is where most teams either panic or overcorrect. The standard allows you to exclude parts of your organization from the scope, but only if there is a clear, justifiable reason, and those exclusions do not affect the ability to deliver secure services. Let me give you one example. If your marketing team has no access to the customer data and no role in the service delivery, you might legitimately exclude them from the scope. If your company is fully remote, you can exclude physical office security controls. Why not? That's exactly what I did with the one-person company I mentioned in the myth video. You can check the link over here. But here is the line you cannot cross. You cannot exclude something just because it's inconvenient or requires more work. It's one of the fastest way to get the non-conformity on the day 1. Step number 4. Watch out for the classic scoping traps. Trap number 1. Forgetting third-party dependencies. If a supplier or a cloud provider processes your customer data, they are part of your risk picture, even if they are outside of your scope. Nah, you don't need to certify them, but you do need to manage them. Trap number 2. Scoping around problems instead of fixing them. I've seen companies try to exclude a legacy system from the scope because it was unsecure. And that's not scoping, that's hiding a risk. Trap number 3. Being too vague, saying your scope is our IT systems, it's not a scope statement. It needs to name specific services, locations, and the organizational units involved. Vague scopes create confusion during the audit and give the auditor the room to interpret things in the way you don't want. And step number 5, document your scope properly. What's the statement actually needs to say? Your scope statement needs to cover 4 things clearly: the services or products your ISMS applies to, the organizational units and the locations included, any interfaces with the internal or external parties like customers or suppliers, and any justified exclusion with the reasoning behind them. It doesn't need to be long. I've seen excellent scope statements that fit on a half page. What matters is it's precise, honest, and consistent with how your business actually operates. The auditor will cross-check it against reality on site, so make sure it matches. So to recap, 5 steps to scope your SMS correctly. Understand what scopes really means, map your assets and your services, define your boundaries with the justification, avoid classic traps, and document it clearly. If you'll do that right, your scope statement sets the tone for the entire audit. It shows the auditor that you are serious, structured, and honest. That credibility carries through every stage of the certification process. Alright, bonus life hack. And this one I really want you to remember because it catches a lot of teams off guard. There are actually 2 different things that both get called scope. And most people don't realize they are different until someone asks and they hand over the wrong one. So the first scope is ISMS scope. That's everything I have been talking about today. The internal document that defines your boundaries, your assets, and your exclusions. It lives in your documentation and it's written for your auditor. The second is the certificate scope. And this one is completely different in purpose. It's short, 1 sentence, maybe 2, and it appears printed on your actual ISO 27001 certificate. Here is the thing. The standard doesn't actually require you to prepare or document the certificate scope separately. So many organizations simply forget about it until the certification body asks for it or until certificate arrives and something important is missing. Why does it matter? Because your certificate will be read by your customers, and not just any customers. Enterprise procurement teams, security departments, vendor assessment teams. These are the people whose job is to check whether your certificate actually covers the product or services they are buying from you. If your certificate scope is vague or if it doesn't clearly mention the service they care about, they might come back with questions or even worse, simply decide your certification doesn't cover what they need. That creates friction right at the moment you are trying to close a deal. So think of the certificate scope as your selling point. It's public facing, it's what enterprise clients screenshot and send to their security team, and it's what proves that your certification is real and relevant. When you are defining it, ask yourself, what does my customers need to see here? If you do software development, say so clearly. If your entire product and infrastructure is in scope, make sure that it comes through. Write it for the person reading your certificate, not for the auditor reviewing your documents. It's a very small thing, literally 1 or 2 sentences. But getting it right can make your certificate work as a sales tool, not just a compliance checkbox. If you are currently working on your scope or you are not sure what you have actually holds up, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to take a look and give you honest feedback. I'm Mykhailo from Honey Badger and Bees Technologies. Happy to have a real chat about your situation. No hard sell, just straightforward advice from someone who's been through the audits and implementations. Please like and subscribe if you want more practical, non-nonsense tips on making security work for growing teams. Talk to you soon, stay secure out there.